Hello everybody and welcome back to Cooking with Grandma. Today I'm going to be remaking one of my videos. It is for Cracker Barrel chocolate Coke cake. A few of my videos, for some reason, I don't know why, come out very blurry. So I'm going to remake a few of those. I'm going to start with the cake. It's very rich, very decadent, very sweet, but very yummy. So to get started, we need to put 2 cups of flour, and it doesn't have very many more ingredients than you would normally use for cakes. Just the only extras you're going to need are marshmallows and a bottle of Coca-Cola. So it's not going to be that much more expense. So 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And we're going to give that a little whisk. Maybe we'll give it a little whisk if I can find my whisk. Okay, we're just going to give this a little whisk just to get everything mixed in, especially the baking soda. It's got such a harsh flavor. You want to make sure that it's really incorporated well into your other ingredients. You don't want any spots of just baking soda. I've done that with cookies sometimes. I've not mixed it all the way through molasses cookies, and you take a bite and all you taste is baking soda. It's not very pleasant. Okay, so that's pretty good mixed in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just leave this aside, and then in a small saucepan, I'm going to just set this over on my table for a minute. Get the plate out of the way. In a small saucepan, I'm going to bring the camera over closer to my stove. There we go. In this pan, we're going to combine 1 cup of butter. I'm going to get this out. And this is the sweet part coming up. Well, partly, because the topping is very sweet as well. But the cake itself is gooey sweet. Okay, so 1 cup of butter in our pot. Add in there. And to that, we're going to add 1 cup of Coca-Cola. I don't know if Diet Coke will work. It doesn't have sugar, so I'm thinking maybe not so much. But, you know, if you don't want the extra sugar but you want the Coke flavor, you can go ahead and try it. This is a recipe from Cracker Barrel. I get copycat recipes every day in my email, and my sister works at Cracker Barrel, and she said she's bought this because they sell it there, obviously, and she said it's just delicious and decadent and yummy. So I'm going to, I made it before with my other video, like I said, and everybody went crazy for it here. They all went gaga. So to that, we're going to put 5 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder. You want unsweetened because you've got the sweetness of all that sugar that you put in 2 cups and the sweetness of the Coke. So you want the unsweetened. You know, break it up a little bit. 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 tablespoons of cocoa powder. So we're going to whisk this over high heat until it's all melted, and then you're going to pour it into the flour mixture. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my stove on. It won't take long because you're doing it on high and you're stirring it. You do want to stir it all the time so it doesn't stick to the bottom. Once the butter melts, it'll be easier. I'm getting a lot of bubbles here from my cocoa powder, and the Coke, the reaction, I guess. But it's okay. Once the butter melts, it'll be easier to stir. I'll let go of my whisk. Now, see, it's already melting. Come on now. We don't want to make a liar out of me, but it is going. It is going very much. There we go. Now it's going. Now it's melting. We want this to boil. Let's go over high heat until all melted. So not necessarily boiled, but just till the butter's all melted. It's going to keep stirring it though. You don't want any sticking on the bottom. And this stirring also helps get the lumps out of the cocoa if there was any. And there, because the butter's melting nicely now. And I pick up my whisk, just a little bit left on it. So it's doing really. I've already greased my 8-inch glass cake pan. You can use a metal cake pan, just adjust your heat time. Glass cake pans cook, believe it or not, a little bit slower than the metal ones. Oh, I just slapped that. Oh dear. They cook a little slower because the dark surfaces, the dark metal conducts heat. Spill that on my stove. Wipe that up right away because it's sticky with the pop. I stirred a little too vigorously, and that's what happens. But you know what? That's okay, because that happens to the best of any cook. You're gonna spill things. It's not the end of the world. You just kind of wipe it up. There we go. Now it's melting. It's doing. You can see what it looks like. It's getting very thin. It will be thin and watered, and that's okay because you're going to add it to all that dry ingredients that we just did. So nothing left on the whisk when I pull it out, no lumps of anything. I would say that it was all melted. The butter's all melted and it's all combined. Shut my burner off. There we are. I'm put the whisk aside because we're going to need that later. And I'll bring my bowl back. Scooch the camera back over to where the bowl is now. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to pour this. Pour flour mixture, whisk until smooth. Okay, so we're going to pour this. No mixers, no beaters needed. You just need your whisk. Or a wooden spoon. I think the last time I used a wooden spoon, but I'll just whisk it this time and see how it goes. Maybe I did use a whisk. It was a while ago that I made this. There we go. You just pour it in slowly and keep stirring as you're pouring, because then it doesn't slop all over like it did when I got a little too aggressive with that whisk. There we go. And now this batter will be very runny. It's not like your typical thicker cake batter. You know, it's going to be, it'll be thickish, but not, the frosting is what's going to really surprise you. The frosting is the one that's going to be like super runny. There we go. So see, you just need your whisk. You don't need beaters or mixers or wooden spoon or anything. And it's very smooth. You see how it's very smooth and fluid. Now to this, after we whisked it, we're going to add a half a cup of buttermilk. I don't buy or use buttermilk because there's only one person in our house that drinks it, and half the time it ends up going bad because he doesn't drink it all the time. So here's a little tip for you. If it whatever amount it calls for, if it's a cup, it's a half a cup. In this case, it's a half a cup. What you do is you take a tablespoon of vinegar, put it in the milk, and let it sit for 5 minutes, and that makes sure that's a substitute for buttermilk. So we're going to add this into, that was kind of thick and glumpy like sour milk, but that's buttermilk. Okay, so to this we're going to add 2 eggs and a teaspoon of vanilla. 2 eggs go in. 2 eggs without the shell. There we go. It's always a good idea to crack it without the, oh, not over your bowl, but you know. And to this we need a teaspoon of vanilla. There we go. Teaspoon of vanilla goes in. So we're going to just give this a good stir again. Break up the eggs a little. Whisk it into our chocolatey mixture. And this is all there is to the cake batter. The marshmallow creamy fudgy frosting is the topping. That's where it gets super decadent. I mean, right now this is a very rich chocolate cake, but that's all it is, just a chocolate cake. It's got Coke in it, you know, chocolate Coca-Cola cake. It gets crazy sweet and decadent when we pour the frosting over it, and I'll show you that when this is done baking. There, it's gorgeous. It's silky smooth. Every lump is out. It's nice. So into my greased 8 by 8 inch cake pan. Or sorry, 9 by 13. Beg your pardon. Not my brownie pan. My 9 by 13 pan. I'm gonna pour it all in. Get every bit of that yummy chocolatey goodness out of this bowl. Okay, and you can use for the topping, it calls for marshmallows. You can use marshmallow cream, the marshmallow fluff that you buy in the stores, or you can just buy a bag of marshmallows. And I'm just going to bang it here a little bit, get the bubbles out, we don't want bubbles in it. And we're going to bake this for 40 minutes. And then when it's done, you put the frosting right on top, the marshmallows and the frosting right on top of the hot cake. So I'm going to see you back here in 40 minutes when the cake is done, and I'll show you the really decadent part. Okay, there is our cake. It's been 40 minutes and it's nice and fluffy. Just you touch it and it springs back. That's how you know a cake is done. Or you can insert a toothpick into the middle of it, and if it comes out clean, that's another way. So I'll show you both methods. There, see, nice clean toothpick, nothing on it. Okay, so now this is the really tricky part. I've melted my marshmallows. You can use the marshmallow fluff in a jar if you like. It's 7 ounces of either one, whichever you melt your marshmallows like 30 seconds at a time until they're melted, and then you pour it right on the hot cake. This is the tricky part because you know, marshmallows are really gooey, and melted marshmallows are gooier, and you want to spread it. Now it's a little tricky. I mean, it doesn't have to be like even, you don't want it big globs in one spot, but you have to be really careful because it'll tear the hot cake. I'm going to get a spoon, or a knife actually, and scrape it off of here, off my rubber scraper that's stuck to it, and get it back onto the cake so we can spread it some more. And you just want to spread it evenly. When you pour the frosting on, I'm just going to use my knife now instead of the scraper. You got to be there. I just took a little chunk out of the cake. You have to be really, really super careful doing this because the cake is hot, so it helps with the marshmallows because it melts them even more, but it's still sticky and hard to spread. Whew, wouldn't that go? So you do this, and when you pour your frosting on, you're going to see bits of the marshmallow shining through or showing through. I'll show you when we get to that part. So you just get this spread out as evenly as possible without tearing up your cake. I mean, I've got a couple of spots here and there, but it's not going to hurt it. You just don't want gaps. If it'll let go long enough to spread it, to cover the cake, and that's about as good as we're going to get, because now it's just starting to harden again and it's starting to stick. So when I pour the frosting on, because it's going to be hot frosting, this will melt the marshmallows even more. I'm just trying to make that let go. So I'm going to set this aside, put it in the sink. Now for the frosting, I'm going to move this cake out of our way for a minute so I can show you how to make the frosting. Put that guy over there. For the frosting, we need 4 cups of icing sugar in a bowl. And in a saucepan, we need a 1/2 cup of butter. Get my whisk again. Whisk is coming in handy. So I'm going to switch this over and bring this camera up close for y'all to see. We're going to put a 1/2 cup of butter in the saucepan. Okay, 1/2 cup of butter, 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, and this all goes into your saucepan. We're not making this like traditional frosting, like mixing the eggs and the the icing sugar and the butter and milk and everything and mixing it like that. This is a little bit different. So to that we add 9 tablespoons of Coca-Cola. The rest of our bottle of Coke here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I never did measure that out to see, like do it in a measuring cup to see how many ounces that would be. Maybe next time if I make it I'll try that. So 9 tablespoons of Coke, and then we're going to whisk it constantly until it boils. This is the time, I know I mentioned earlier the first batch when I made the chocolate filling and I was talking about boiling it, but it was the frosting that it calls for boiling, not that. That was just mixed until it's smooth. This, now the butter's already melted, everything's already mixed in, so we're going to just keep stirring this until it comes to the boil. A little closer here for you. And I thought I could aim it better. I guess that's okay. I'll show it to you after. And you just keep stirring it like this until it comes to a boil. Keep your heat on high, but stir it constantly because it will stick. The sugars in the pop will caramelize if you don't keep stirring it, and it'll stick to the bottom. And then you'll have like a big glob of chocolate goo. You won't have a nice smooth liquid to put in your frosting. We're just going to keep stirring this. It's already starting to steam, so which means it'll boil in any time now. You don't boil it forever, you don't boil it long, you just till it boils, and then we remove it from the heat, and we're going to add our vanilla, and then we're going to pour it into the frosting sugar, and then over our cake. And you see the steam coming off of it. I hope you can see that in the camera. You should, yeah, I think you can see that. There's steam coming, that means it's about to boil. It's getting right close. Just keep stirring. This is a very easy cake to make. It's a few different steps. You know, you put your dry ingredients, then use a saucepan, and then put it in the oven and bake it, and then the marshmallows, and then this step. It's a little bit less, or more complicated than your regular cake, but not complicated at all. It's just more bowls. A little bit messier because, you know, you have extra cleaning up to do. Instead of putting everything in one pan or one bowl, it's a bowl and a pan, and then another bowl for the frosting. And this is the same pan that I used to mix the chocolate to put in the cake mixture, so I didn't even wash it out because I'm putting essentially the same things back in it. So there we go. We're boiling now, so I'm going to remove that from the heat. Scooch this back over here. And we're going to stir in 1 teaspoon of vanilla. There we go. Give it a little bit of a stir. And now we're going to pour it over the icing sugar and whisk it. It's going to be a very, very runny frosting. If you think that, oh gosh, I put too much liquid in and now it's like all water and I have to add more icing sugar, don't panic. This is the way it's supposed to look. It's supposed to be very runny. And when I first made it, I thought, oh no, because, you know, if you've ever made homemade frosting and you add just a couple of drops of too much milk in it, it gets thin. It's too thin to use, so you have to keep adding sugar till you get it thickened up right. I used a whole bag of powdered sugar the one time because I had made them, you know, put too much milk in there. And I thought, oh gosh, I should add more sugar, but I thought, no, I'm going to go with the recipe, what it says, and this is exactly what you need. You see how nice and creamy and smooth that is? It's very thin. You see how watery is? It's falling right off my whisk? But that's what it calls for. That's what we want. So now I'm going to bring my cake back over with the marshmallows melted on top of it. And we're going to pour it right over the hot cake. Just like this. All covered. Okay. I am going to get a sorry about that, I forgot I'm going to get a rubber spatula here so I can scrape out all this lovely frosting. And you see, without me even spreading it with anything, it evened itself up over the cake. There's a couple of spots there where the marshmallows are going through, and that's okay. That's what you want. So there is our very decadent, very, very sweet Cracker Barrel chocolate Coca-Cola cake. Now it has to sit for, I think it's 5 minutes. Okay. Oh, sorry, it says to chill for at least an hour. So I'm going to chill it for a little bit, and then I'll cut a piece and I'll show you what it looks like when it's cut. I don't want to cut into it yet because the frosting is not set and it will just run all over the place. So I'm going to pop it in the fridge for a few minutes and let it set up a bit, and I'll come right back and show you what it looks like when you cut into it. Okay, I've let my cake chill for a little bit in the refrigerator. It still can chill a little bit more, but I just wanted to show you how nice it looks. It's pretty set. It's just your basic chocolate cake, and you can see the white on top. That's the marshmallow coming through the frosting. And that you have Cracker Barrel's chocolate Coca-Cola cake. I hope you all enjoy, and if you try it, let me know how it works out for you. And if there's anything you'd like me to make to show you how to do, or any questions you have on any baking tips or cooking tips, just leave a comment below and I'll be sure to get back to you. And just before I sign off, I wanted to show you one thing. My daughter and daughter-in-law bought this. Let's see if I turn my camera this way. So they bought this for me a little while ago. And it looks like your average cutting board, but if you see down at the bottom here, oopsie, right there, there's a pocket, and that holds your tablet or your cookbook. So when you're cooking, you have it standing up so you can read it, and you don't have to leave it on your counter and risk it getting dirty and messed up from your ingredients. If you're a sloppy baker like I am, you know, slopping. But that is a really cool board. And it's a really cool holder. I've never seen anything like it. I've seen some that are metal, and I've seen different kinds of cookbook holders, but this is really nice, and it's nice and solid wood. So anyway, have a great, yummy, wonderful day, and I'll see you all another time. Bye now.